Hello everyone, and welcome to a first look at Task Force Admiral. This is a short preview of the game, very generously donated to me by the developers of the games. A massive thank you to you guys for that very special opportunity indeed, very grateful for it. Before we start, this is in fact a cinematic preview. We have no bearing over or control over the events in this particular preview, so we're just here to sit and watch the events unfold, and a very good looking slice this is indeed. Just look at the graphics in this game. First thing that hits you is absolutely stunning. So, what does this preview actually cover? Well, we have an aircraft carrier battle between our forces of the Hornet and the Enterprise, escorted by quite a few heavy cruisers, some New Orleans type cruisers, and an assortment of destroyers. And those ships are tasked with defeating and defending against the enemy IJN carriers of Zuikaku and Showcat, escorted by two Myoko class cruisers, as well as another assortment of destroyers. Loading into the start of the scenario though, we're met with what I imagine will be the functional command room in this game. We're going to start with the fleet management screen here, as that's the first thing that pops up for us. And we can see a dial here which does allow us to have a detailed view of our fleet's positionings. And actually looking on the text box there, you can see there are edit presets and apply presets and such, and creating new formations. This does heavily imply that you will of course be able to save certain formation types, and that is excellent. It looks like here, of course, we don't actually have any control over this battle, but it looks like this is how you would actually change your fleets over here. So that's quite detailed. A very authentic and actually crucially smooth look to it there. Very, very clear what's going on, if you ask me. Quite standout, quite bold. It's very, very intuitive by the looks of things, but we will have to dive into that a little later when we do get true control over that, of course. But so far looking very, very good on the fleet management side of things. Speaking of fleet management, let's use the strategic style map to have a look at what we have in the area. So you can see we have a few groups and minor groups of combat air patrol escorting our carrier task force over here. And up ahead we have rather a large group of enemy attack aircraft. Look at the number on that. It's a massive, massive group. So this is something we are looking at quite likely having as a theme within this game. Massive, massive air groups here. We have our own attack aircraft coming in to the sighted enemy ships over there. And with just the simple press of a button, you can seamlessly move to a more tactical view over here of the map. I imagine that this is where you might be spending the majority of your time within the battle to give some more micro sort of management towards your ships and planes here. This is a somewhat 3D map as well, as you can see here. Unfortunately, we can't simply jump to planes by double clicking on them, as you can see we're trying to do on this particular scenario here, which is rather unfortunate. So we can't just simply go over to this massive amount of enemy aircraft coming in here. However, there is of course an UI element, so you can of course zip on over to enemies as well as your own aircraft, and look at this massive flight of enemy Kates. This is mixed in with enemy Vals and such, but the viewing experience alone is absolutely stellar. There are some ways to have a look from different perspectives of every single enemy aircraft and ship. Here we're going from a tail gunner perspective, and you do have free command of the camera while doing so. We're going to have a look over if we can see. We can get to perhaps a wing view here, and there you go, look at that. It can even wave hello to the pilots, which are of course modelled individually there, which is absolutely a great attention to detail there. No longer have the ghost ships and planes of games such as World of Warships and War on the Sea and such as we've been covering. And look at that, you can go to each wing, have a swivel around of the camera, and you can detach the camera as well to go and have a look. It's a free roam style camera as well. Trying to figure out the UI, we'll show you how we're doing such things. We go to a focus element on here, and you do get the ability to go to every individual aircraft and ship in this particular game, which is very, very nice indeed. However, I do find it the tiniest bit clunky when doing so. But here we're going to go to the tactical map and see exactly where we are. And then there's a seamless transition to the strategic map as well. We can see we're very, very close to intercepting the enemy attack aircraft here. We do still have quite a distance to travel before our own attack aircraft in the form of TBD Devastators and, of course, Dauntlesses come in to wreak havoc on the enemy ships themselves there. Let's try and have a look at the Dauntlesses and Devastators though. Look at that, very, very nice models indeed. Very, very detailed actually. It's absolutely amazing looking game. You can go on the UI element and see exactly what sorts of flights they're on, what missions they have. Later on we can see bases and the history of contacts and such as well. But you do get a full overview of everyone's fleet at any one time, which is excellent, as you'd expect. From such a game. It's good to have that information with you on a strategic game such as this. So we're going to go to the Showcat and look at that excellent model there. You can see it is actually lifting up some zeros for increased air patrol there. And it is looking like it's very much an authentic and more real-time style element there, whereby it does take quite some time to lift up your air patrols and such and your flights. So this is something you're going to have to plan in advance here, which is absolutely brilliant to see. It's going to be a lot of forethought and deep critical thinking in this game by the looks of things, which is something we love to see here. To further that, you even get to have a look at the current armour scheme and how well that's doing. Of course, I'm not entirely sure how to read this at the moment, but of course with an undamaged Showcat there you can see certain colours will mean it's fairly undamaged. Unfortunately, we can't see this with the Miyoko at the moment. It's what we're trying to get hold of here. Not entirely sure why that is, because we do have the Miyoko selected, but I'm sure of course it will come on later on towards the game's development. To add to that element, we also get a Ouija, and this is stuck to the Enterprise at the moment and our own carriers, but that's not a problem. You can see then exactly what's going on with our aircraft on our carriers, which is very, very nice little element indeed. Extra information is always, of course, useful. You can see the exact missions over here of what's going on, what sorts of times they're ready, what targets they have to go for. Just gives you that much more micromanagement and visualization there. You can see exactly what's going on with these certain squadrons and such as well. But let's see if we can get to a little bit of action finally, shall we? And here we're trying to see if one of our Wildcats can indeed successfully down one of the enemy attack aircraft. It's taking a lot of shots there on target, but we do finally get rid of that. Look at that amazing, amazing fire over there. Some lovely thick smoke. We get some really nice 3D maneuvers from this Wildcat here. It's absolutely brilliant. Very refreshing to see after playing so much War on the Sea, where it's not quite so 3D animated there. Can't get quite the altitude maneuvers there. But we are unfortunately going to have to show how fiddly the UI can be to try and select a new fighter here so we can get back into the action. It's such a long list over here. You don't know exactly where these fighters are, unless perhaps you can label them yourself later in the future. No idea where we're going with this. It's pretty much just potluck, but we have found a fighter over here trying to attack something here. And it's a bit sad that we don't currently get the sound effects for our own machine gun fire, but we will have to remind everyone that this is currently only worked on by one coder at the moment, which is really, really surprising. And of course they're backed up by some art directors, but once again very much a skeleton crew on this lovely, lovely game here. And as the Japanese attack aircraft have made direct contact with the US ships, we can see the Hornet over here trying to protect itself from an incoming group of Kates. Very, very useful, but a little too fluid on the transition there, I think, to the submersive view there. Not to worry. But here we can see a couple Kates coming. They are about to drop off. In fact, There you go, they have dropped, you can see the splashes there and some lovely torpedo streams. Let's have a closer look at that. Absolutely brilliant there. That does look like it's on a decent line. Couple more cakes coming in here to drop. Let's have a look at that. It looks like, yeah, there we go. See the splashes in the water. Excellence there. We might just see if we can get some hits over here onto this Hornet. It's taking some very nice evasive maneuvers, but I don't think it'll be quite enough. Can we see some more cakes coming in there? I think we can. Try and get a little closer to see these incoming explosions and such. Very, very nice indeed. Look at that ship model. That is a beauty. Absolute beauty. But of course, the US are not sat idly by. We did see the Enterprise get dive bombed. We're going to try and see if we can get a Showcat, I believe this is, dive bombed here. Look at that. That is absolutely beautiful. Once again, let's try and see if we can get this hit. And sunk indeed. And with all of the payloads delivered, we're just trying to see if we can review the damage that they've done to get a bit of visualization of what's going on with our own ships here. But not too entirely sure how to read this. I'll have to be told, and we'll have some information later on, of course. But it's very nice to have that element anyway. We can see that the American carriers are doing fairly okay. Some light damage. We will have to sort out the fires, of course, if this was a battle we had some control over. But I'm sure the damage control parties will be doing very, very nicely there. And with everyone's payloads spent and the fighters and such running out of fuel with their missions complete, everyone returns to base. And that is where our preview ends, unfortunately, guys. So, with all of that being said, let's answer a question which should have come first. What exactly is Task Force Admiral? Well, as you can see, it is, of course, a historical strategy game set within World War II, 1942 specifically, and it is, so far as we can tell, centered solely around Guadalcanal once again. Yes, it's another game which does focus very specifically on the Solomons campaign in the Pacific War. That's not necessarily a bad thing, though. I'm sure you will agree with me in saying that really pretty decent strategic games set around this area, the naval action within the Pacific War, it's pretty much a void at the moment in this genre. The only games we have so far are, of course, War on the Sea. Battle Stations Pacific has, of course, left its mark. But that was so long ago, and I think really it's left its mark because while it was at the time innovative and very fun to play, there's not really anything out there that scratched that particular itch, is there? The only other thing I could possibly think of would be the Victory at Sea Pacific game, but that is rather buggy and quite clunky. So I really see that Task Force Admiral can really step into this void and fill it, scratch our itches very, very hard indeed, and very, very satisfyingly. And I think it could well be the leading game in that particular niche market, and I'm very, very happy for it. But those are my first thoughts and impressions on what we have so far to see from the game. So thank you very much for joining me. I hope you have enjoyed the video today, and please do subscribe and like the video, because I'm sure there is more to come in the nearer future. So, once again, thank you very much for watching, and I shall see you in the future. May all of your nights and days be auspicious. Goodbye.